turn it over to Mr. Stiles for his preliminary budget presentation.
What a segue. All right. Well, welcome
7:30
everybody.
and not a second earlier.
All right, well, welcome to the 2021 preliminary budget discussion. I always like to point out that the board's very involved in our budget preparation throughout the various committees, all year long, but each of the committees contribute to the budget. And they give us a lot of guidance on numbers, percentages, blah, 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 but personnel, operations, and education. When we put the budget together, the first thing we do is we work through our strategic plan, and that's how we plan with our supervisors. I know we're going through the strategic plan process for a new strategic plan. But this particular year, we started with our goals that are in place, and we look to include many of these goals, or at least the thoughts and processes in these goals, into our next goal process. So you'll see a lot of the same themes, I think, in terms of where we are and where we're going to go. And the budget timeline, just especially for the new folks, this is exactly how we play it out. We start our process in October, essentially, and we send out information to the administrators and the staff, and we get feedback back in November, and we start compiling the budget. We meet with all of the supervisors, our core team, and we go through questions, we go through staffing with each department, and then we start putting together information, such as the healthcare information. We know our salaries. We put all of our general healthcare, but the utilities, all the good stuff that goes into the budget. January 21st, we met with the operations committee, and we shared with them all the new items that we're looking to put into the budget. January 27th, and this is kind of a key date for us, we get state budget guidelines, which allows us to calculate a large number for us, our send receive tuition. And that's about an $8 million line, just so you know. And it can fluctuate each year, depending on what that cost per pupil is going to be. And then we work it out with Greenbrook, who's obviously our largest send. And we work out the rates, and we plug in the numbers. So at least we have that down. And then tonight, we're doing just a preliminary discussion on timelines, enrollment, and some key developments. On February 25th, the governor is going to deliver the state budget address. 2 days later, we'll get state aid numbers. And I'll go through what I think it's going to be. And then on March 3rd, we have the preliminary budget presentation to the board. Prior to that meeting, you will get a book. New board members, you'll get a book. It's a budget book, and has every revenue, every expenditure you can possibly have in this budget. And we'll have a memo in there. It'll tell you what's in it. It'll give you key details. And then on March 17th, the board votes on that preliminary budget. At that point, we submit that to the preliminary budget to the county executive county superintendent, who reviews and approves, and then on April 28th, we have a public hearing on the budget, so the public has input on the budget. And then we started this year our anticipated enrollment. We know it's dropping. It's been dropping gradually each year for the past 5 years. At one point, we were actually up around 2,200, 2,300. In fact, you were here, Freddie, during that time period. But yeah, so we're down below 2,000. That includes out-of-district kids. Our out-of-district kids were about 38. So it's in districts about 1932, and that's continually dropping. And that is one of the key factors when we budget. Certainly staffing is a key issue when you're looking at enrollment dropping like that. On the revenue side, these are key things that we see. A 2% budget cap is $633,000 for us. We know we're not going beyond the 2%. We couldn't even if we wanted to anyway. We don't really have any bank cap left, and the health care is not even on the table this year because the state, it's predicated on the state calculation, and the state health benefits is actually dropping this year. So for districts who have the state health benefit plan, which we do not, they're actually dropping by like 4%. Potential state support should increase. 2 years ago, 18-19 increased by 220,000, 224,000. Last year, 139,000. So we anticipate another increase for us. Not sure what it's going to be. Just keep in mind that declining enrollment is a factor. State aid is calculated using enrollment. So if that starts to drop, so does your aid. So that will get to us eventually. But we've been getting more for the last couple of years is because we've been underfunded for the past 10. And the reason we're underfunded is because of the economics. We are in a high-income district, so that being the case, there's a factor that the state puts in there that will reduce your aid, and we've been getting that back for the past couple of years. And we'll get some back this coming year, but we believe it's going to be a little less because of the enrollment. The send receive tuition, the projected rate is $17,170. That's a 2.8% rate increase. We had a favorable 18-19 adjustment. And again, for you new folks, what that means is we estimate a rate in 18-19. And what happens is when the state certifies that rate based on our audit, there's going to be a differential. So your actual rates compared to your estimated rate and the actual enrollments compared to the estimated enrollment, and the difference between those two numbers, one of the two districts is going to owe the other one. That's always a tricky one for us. It's a difficult calculation, and it's one that causes a lot of stress between the two BAs, I can tell you that. That's always been the case. But so for this year, we get a $247,000 adjustment in our favor. So that's actually netted against next year's revenue, if that makes sense. The overall net increase is 3.3%, largely because of that extra $247,000. So we're 3.3% above where we were in 1920, estimated. And the capital reserves, and I wanted to point this out, the space that you're sitting in right now, as the board knows, we have a project this summer that's going to start. In fact, we had the architects here today, and we were trying to finalize some of the colors and that good stuff. So the reason I put it in here, because on the budget, you'll notice in the revenue section and in the expenditure section, this $3.8 million. It washes out, but it's going to skew the numbers. It's going to look higher. It's going to look like we're spending more than we actually are, because we're spending the $3.8 million as part of this referendum, but 2.5 is coming from our capital reserve and surplus. 1.3 million is coming from debt service aid, so it offsets. This will have no impact on taxes. I'm just very clear about that. We made that clear during the referendum, and you'll see it, and I'll point it out when we get to the actual numbers in the budget. On the appropriation side, some of the things we talked to the operations committee about, and by the way, for all the board members, I believe you can look into the operations folder on the district website, is it? Or? Yeah, so on that drive, is that the...
On Google Drive, on the operations folder?
Yeah, the Google Drive, the operations folder, you'll find some of the detailed information in terms of new things we're looking to add. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. I will have it in the March 3rd budget book, though, each one of them detailed out. So anyway, just going back to the more of a broad picture. In terms of the salaries, 3.1% increase, that's from the negotiated agreement. The health care, which was originally with the operations committee, I think it was 5 or 6%, it escalated to 7.5 within a week. But I think we're pretty solid with that number right now. I wish it wasn't that. As the group knows, we are in the school health insurance fund. The entire fund has had an increase this year, so that kind of raised the bar for the health care through the entire shift. And our claims have gone higher than the shift, our medical claims. So that has dragged it up to set that 7.5. If you're in the shift, and the max that you'll go up beyond the shift rate is 2.5%. So there's a swing 2.5% up or down. So based on our claims, we go up to 7.5. And you'll notice we have a break even on head count. We're going up 1 in special ed and down 1 in one of our academic areas. And we'll go through that again in March. And some of the things that we're looking to do are just items that we're adding in the instructional area. The one-to-one laptops, this will be year 4. So we'll finally have all classes with Chromebooks. That's great. And you'll see that's around $190,000. One of our big wellness projects is the weight room by Gym 56 down here by the Gym 56. It's very overdue, guys. It's an old weight room, and we need to update it. We want to put some more cardio things in there. We've talked a lot with the phys ed teachers, and we're looking forward to that project if we can fit it into the budget. Classroom furniture, year 2. This year we equipped 5 classrooms with the new furniture. We worked with our architect. Good news is I don't have to spend the money on architect fees again, so we can just use the same plan. Smart boards, we're adding 10. Brings our total to 97 now, out of the 130-some classes, 97. And there's also, in the other classes, there's also Epson, projectors and those kind of things. So we're pretty much set in most of our classes now. And capital improvements, like I mentioned before, in there is the media center. You'll see that. One of the larger projects is the South Cafeteria. The board knows a couple years ago we had this in the budget to replace the coils for the heating and the air conditioning. But instead of doing that, what we wanted to do, it's a little cheaper and it's more efficient, is to put a separate rooftop unit above the South Caf. That will allow the system, like right now, the boilers and the chillers will work less because they won't have to heat that large area. We can separate that, and we don't always use that, so we can kind of put that on a timer a little bit better. So it's a little more efficient. One thing that's coming, and it's not going to have a real budget impact, but you will see some of the work done next school year, is the Energy Savings Improvement Plan, the ESIP. And one of the things we'll probably get going on is selecting an ESCO, the energy company, and we'll probably be moving forward with the lighting. So if we can get some of the lighting done during the school year, particularly in the evenings and certain wings, we'll get that going. That will not have a budget impact in 2021. It will in 2021, 22. But just so the board knows, you will be seeing some things, some energy efficiencies going on. And security, we were notified that we're going to get a grant for the notification system. We got $127,000. We hope the grant will come through. It's due in May. So we're already working on how we want to move forward with that. We're replacing some doors and some cameras. We'll be done with all of our cameras at the end of this school year, 2021. And that's all I have for now. Do you guys have any questions?
So I have a few questions. So the smart board, I thought the smart board is an outdated technology. There's a better technology. You get the thick glass TV monitor, which interactive. I thought that was.
I know the smart boards are utilized quite a bit through each of the.
And the ones we're buying are the newest ones that you do not need to actually connect your computer to it. They have the computer as part of it. So they're the most upgraded technology for them. For the actual learning commons space, we do have a number of smart boards, and then we have some other technology that we're also looking in terms of Microsoft Surface screens to have a little more advanced technology available. But the smart boards are at the right price point and the appropriate technology for the classrooms, which our teachers have been utilizing.
Since we are buying, we should buy the latest technology because otherwise it will become outdated, very soon.
Right, and I think, and I also think there's also, I know that there's 24 I forgot the name of the item was a CAPI, so I know it's a CAPI Q or something like that, and it allows
To
us
upgrade the current ones we
to
have.
upgrade the current ones we have.
It is a constant race to stay updated with the technology, and which is why we try to buy more, I guess, software than hardware in terms of where our money is spent. But we need it, and unfortunately, the minute you buy it, there's a newer model coming out.
The Warren District bought some latest technology last year. You might like to talk to them, what they did.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of what they're.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I thought Warren had quite a few smart boards too, though, if I remember right.
I thought they were, making obsolete the smart board. They were developing. The other question I have here is that the laptop to the students, you say year 4. What does it mean? Year means you have a.
So 4 years ago, we started the one-to-one laptop, the Chromebooks for the students.
It's a Chromebook, not the laptop.
Chromebook, yeah.
Okay.
So
they keep for the all 4 years, right?
they keep it for all 4 years, correct.
Right.
And we're right now working on the plan of what we're going to do in that 5th year.
So I have 2 questions on the slide number 3. So in slide number 3, I see the enrollment that you have, say, 2,000 students, and our budget is 46 million. That means that per student, the expenditure is like 23,000.
Right.
But then on the next bullet, you have that this send, receive tuition revenue, 17,000. So these 2 numbers do not match.
Now, the tuition formula doesn't count all the things that you're looking at. The tuition formula does not have portions of the debt. So the principal portion of any debt payment that we're making is not part of that. The interest is, but not the principal.
Okay.
There are other things too. Within that 46 million is grant monies. The grants are not charged to Greenbrook.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so it's only certain items in the operations budget. And there are some special ed costs that are not in there as well. For example, we pay over $2 million for special ed tuition. Greenbrook does that outside of us. So they send students and pay for that cost by themselves. So we don't pay for Greenbrook out-of-district students. And another example would be transportation. Greenbrook transports their students here, right? So we're not charging them that cost, yeah.
But this amount is send, receive, so that means if we have to pay or we have to receive, is about the same number, is it?
It's, this is what Greenbrook has to pay us.
Okay.
So this is a revenue for us. They're the ones who are paying it.
The send-receive just indicates that their relationship with us is a send-receive relationship, whereas the other 3 districts are constituent districts because they're part of the tax base. So that's just what the send-receive indicates.
Right. The three towns pay for the budget through their taxes, whereas Greenbrook pays tuition. And I would argue for Greenbrook, they'll tell you, well, that's part of our taxes.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Good?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stiles.
Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Mr. Morrison?
So the Education Committee met on the 28th, and we had a number of items that we went through. But the first thing that I want to say is that it was the first meeting that we had with Mr. Sabino, who is the new Director of Guidance, as well as we were able to have with us the new principal, William Librera. It was actually his second day on the job. So we broke in the new guy right away in a committee meeting. And I must say, I was very impressed by Mr. Sabino with his preparation, with the materials that he brought in, with his responses to our questions. He has jumped in with both feet, and I think he's going to do a lot of really good things for the district in bringing a modern approach to the way that we look at our programming and scheduling for the schools. So that said, he walked us through curriculum revision around the visual arts pathways. Again, trying to create a scope and sequence for the individual visual arts programs so that there is a so students can plan better, and that there is a real organized fashion for those students that want to concentrate on something in the visual arts, have a clear pathway that they can follow. And I believe that document was sent to all of you last week after our meeting, and I think you can see just from his approach the way that the program was arranged originally, and then the reconstruction that he did around it. We thought that it was really good. He then reviewed for us new curriculum offerings, as well as some revised curriculum offerings and some discontinued courses in the program of studies. These were all sent to you in advance. The administration is asking us to approve these changes this evening, and we felt comfortable with them at the committee level. And even though this is a little unusual, because usually this would be the following meeting that it would be approved, we did ask the administration to get them out to the full board as quickly as possible, so you would have a chance to review them. But a couple of the highlights were the new course offerings are Journalism 2A, African American Studies, Spanish Immersion and Culture, Italian Immersion and Culture 1, and then some new Foundations of Drawing and Foundations of Painting, which are part of the new visual arts restructuring. Some of the course revisions included Robotics A, to allow ninth graders to enroll, Sociology, AP Psychology, Accounting 1A as a full year with a weight change to reflect the rigor of the courses, Computer Science A, and a full year ELL. The discontinued offerings were Italian Cultural Studies, Fine Arts 1 and 2 as part of the revision, Art History, Cinema Studies, 20th Century Dictators, and Native American History. We also then reviewed the courses. There are some offerings that we have that are on a rotating and every other year schedule. That's so that we can allow the courses to run and the students can plan their schedules accordingly so that they can take advantage of certain courses that for whatever reason, when we run them annually, we don't have enough students enrolled, so they don't run. But when we run them every other year, the demand kind of gathers, and we are able to run them on an every other year sequence. So that was beneficial. So you all have received copies of the program of studies and the revisions. Are there any specific questions you have about that part?
I just have one question here. I did respond to, I did ask a few questions and I got response. When we go for the revision, do we seek some advice from some companies, expert companies or alumni who have been, students here who have gone out, seeks their input? So when we are devising the courses, it's purely by the school, or we do seek input from outside?
Well, I think I'll allow the superintendent to address it in a moment, but I will. The one thing that we do is we take information from all variety of sources. We have supervisors that are constantly interfacing with their other supervisors and going through professional development to determine what are the latest and greatest innovations in approaches or textbook or methodologies that they can bring to bear. I know the district has been surveying students when they've left the school. I think, Liz, that was something that you were working on to get certain feedback about what courses were helpful, if there was some things that we could have done differently now that you're 3 years into school, what might some of those things be. So it's not just folks are sitting off by themselves trying to come up with ideas of what to bring out. There's a lot of research that goes into it, and oftentimes a lot of it comes up based on what teachers bring forward as an area of interest, or even students bring forward. Sometimes some things will start even as a club that students get started, and then all of a sudden the teachers go, hey, this actually would be good as part of our curriculum, and so then they'll go through that process. But I'll let Liz address.
I think you did a great job. It really comes from all sources, from current students' areas of interest, from current teachers' area of interest, from students who have left us, who actually, just the other day, a couple of the supervisors were sharing with me, some students took, some of our graduates took a great amount of time to share with us some of their college experiences. Just, they were emailing a teacher or one of our supervisors to share with them some of the success they had in college. And we in turn then started a dialogue on, can you tell us a little bit more about this and what courses you felt here really helped you, what you wish we had. So we really do get it from all sources. The next step in this, so this is just the course offerings. In terms of developing the curriculum, that will not get done until if the course actually runs next year. So if students actually sign up for these courses and they're going to run, then we will write the curriculum, and that, we reach out to, we look at college, for cybersecurity, for example, we looked at college curriculum for those courses, had connections with different companies about that, so that comes from multiple sources as well.
Thank you.
So that, that's a good question, and Mr. Morrison, I think you did a nice job of encapsulating that, all of your years on Ed Committee.
Coming into play.
Yeah.
All the years on Ed Committee and 2 students coming through,
That's right.
that'll do it. The next item that we talked about was the Central Jersey Music Educators hosted their Central New Jersey all region ensemble that was hosted here at Watchung Hills in January. As I understand it, that it was a great opportunity for us to showcase our building. I think we had 11 or 12 of our own students that were in the ensemble, and from everything that I understand, that it came off without a hitch. Everyone here was happy with how the program went. And I think
I had my county roundtable that day and did not get any phone calls about any, which is always a good sign.
There you go. And then tonight, the middle school honors band is actually in our Performing Arts Center right now, performing. And basically what this is each of the 4 sending districts select the best of their middle school instrumental musicians, and they put them together and they rehearse once a week over a 5-week period, and then come to the high school to do a dress rehearsal last night and then do a concert this evening. So it's the first opportunity to really give those students an opportunity to get a sense of what it's like to be in a bigger ensemble, what meets some of their peers that they'll potentially be mingling with once they get to the high school. And also this evening they're actually going to perform one number with the wind ensemble. And then the wind ensemble is going to perform one number for them and their parents to give them a sense of what it is that they have to look forward to. So it's a great way for the high school and our sending districts to really collaborate, work together, and showcase more of what this vertical articulation of the program can look like between all of the districts. The next item that we talked about was the fall or the holiday concert, the December instrumental and choir concerts that were held. As many of you probably are aware, we've received some correspondence with some feedback regarding those concerts. We had a discussion about that at the committee level, trying to address some of the questions around why was there a change into the format, what were some of the issues that folks were concerned about regarding the change to format. And I think one of the things that, at least from my fellow committee members that we talked about, was the fact that historically the chorus concert has been one of those, what I call a tentpole event, a signature event that occurs at the school. You had, the people, it's probably the biggest event that we have outside of graduation is the choral concerts in December and in the spring. And, why, if that's such a successful event, why would we necessarily need to alter it? And while there was certainly some feedback on wanting to try something different and a more collaborative approach with the ensembles by mixing the chorus and the wind ensemble, I think there is a sense that they're going to take a look and get some feedback from the faculty on whether or not that's something that worked well in their eyes, or if there's another approach that we may need to take. I know some board members offered some suggestions to the administration, but I think that there is a sense of we want to keep that those big events that we draw the entire community into the building are certainly something of value to the district, and that we hope we can find a way to be able to maintain those or augment those in a way that makes sense for the administration, for the faculty, but most importantly for our students and for the community. So I don't know if anyone, other board members on the committee, want to comment on that particular item.
I think you said it well.
No, I mean, I think we talked about how, in a way, it's a good problem to have because we have such a vast array of such talented students across chorus, band, our musicals.
Yeah.
So, and we definitely want to find a way to showcase those talents and create these magical nights where the students can show what they have and the parents can enjoy it in a quality way. So again, it's definitely a challenge. It's better to have that problem than the other.
Exactly.
And one of the things we talked about was that we've added to the number of groups we have performing.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
which again is a good problem to have. So just trying to figure out if there's a way to restructure it to perhaps, make the length of the concerts a little bit more manageable. So they're still in the process of talking about that. They met with the teachers. The teachers were going to kind of come up with some possibilities and then regroup.
Great. And then the last item was Mr. Librera gave us an update on vaping assembly communities in crisis, informed the committee that the assemblies on vaping that were held, actually the day that we were there, 3 presentations were made by communities in crisis to the 10th grade health classes. So what was interesting about the approach was it wasn't a you all come assembly where they fill, the pack to the brim and somebody does a presentation. These were much more intimate, smaller groups so that there could be more interaction and hopefully more focus on the issue that was being discussed. They talked about vaping, facts and figures, and presented, the various scenarios that we're now learning about as the research is catching up with the marketing, and that the health teachers will be planning to follow up on the presentations and continue to hold discussions with the students to continue that dialogue about the health hazards that exist by being engaged in vaping, and the fact that, shouldn't be doing it here in the school anyway. So that's our Ed Committee report. Any questions from other board members? Mr. Fallon?
Yeah, two things. First, one's on the concerts. I hope that the administration will keep us advised before the next set of holiday concerts as to what's going to be happening, not because I want us to tell you to do something differently, but it is a hot button issue that music parents respond to board members about, so it'd be nice if we know in advance what's going to happen there. Second, based not only on Bob's effusive praise, but also on the material we did receive from Director Savino, I just wanted to extend kudos to Liz and Beth and the team for the effort in bringing the new Special Services Director to us.
Guidance director.
Guidance
We're working on the special services director.
Guidance director.
That's the next report.
So I know I didn't have a superintendent's report tonight, but I really do want to say what a pleasure it's been we have a full administrative team right now. We have our new director of technology, we have our new director of school counseling, and our new principal. And they have all come right into the fold, working with the staff, with the rest of the team. We have obviously a lot going on right now in the middle of the year, so they didn't have time to come in and kind of get acclimated. They've really just hit the ground running, and they're all doing a really nice job. And I'm glad that both Mr. Librera and Mr. Sabino were able to come to the Ed Committee meetings, and I think there'll be frequent faces at those meetings. And I also want to thank Ed Committee because it was a very dense meeting. So I really appreciate everyone's attention to everything that was on there. Because it allowed us to have a very successful, immediately following that meeting, we had the 8th grade parents' night, and we had a great turnout for that. And that's where we went through all of this. All of the slides said pending board approval, but we were able to share a lot of this with them. So it was great.
Okay, personnel?
Well, in between the Education Committee meeting on the 28th and the 8th grade parents' night, there was a Personnel Committee meeting, and Mr. Librera also attended our meeting, so he had a long day. I didn't realize it was only his second day. So in the Personnel Committee meeting, we reviewed the C items, the action items for tonight, and also the preview items. Mrs. Scheiderman reported that we talked about the Director of Special Services search, and Mrs. Scheiderman reported that we've received a number of quality resumes and that she and Dr. Jewett are reviewing them and screening candidates, and that they'll be putting together a committee for interviewing. We also are proposing updates to several of our policies because of new and changes in regulations. Firstly, there is a new earned sick leave law that will cover workers who are hourly, part-time people who are regularly hired as needed. And for our school, that includes our PAC workers, part-time security, and part-time bus drivers. The new law gives every employee 1 hour of paid sick time for every 30 hours worked, up to a maximum of 40 hours total. So with the advice of our attorney, Mark Zittimer, we revised our policy to match the language of the new law in New Jersey.
All right, so that's on for first reading.
That's on the first reading. We also revised our policy regarding teaching staff members' reporting requirements. They now include the reporting of a disorderly person conviction, and that a disorderly person is someone who has failed to report an act of child abuse to protective services. We're also looking at changes to our use, possession, and distribution of substances policy to incorporate language from regulation revisions to say that refusal by an employee to consent to a medical examination, including a substance test, or if test results aren't provided to the superintendent within 24 hours or as soon as they're available, will be deemed a positive test result for substances. But we're not proposing, that's not on tonight's agenda because we're going to review the policy again to possibly include language regarding a last chance agreement. Any questions?
All right. Operations?
Operations? Will be much shorter because Tim covered most of it in his budget presentation. But we did also, despite my objections, deal with the policies. And so we are, there's a revision to policy 5111, which deals with the eligibility of both resident and non-resident students. There was some old language in it that needed to be cleaned up. Dr. Shabilsky caught that there was a reference to sex that should have been a reference to gender. Those revisions have been made. It's also on for reading tonight. We then moved on to the budget presentation. I'm not going to review the things that Tim went through in his budget presentation today, but I do want to just point out a couple of other things that were addressed during that. One was a question was raised in the committee, in connection with the declining enrollment. Is this something that the administration discusses with the staff so that they know what's coming in the future? And Dr. Jewett pointed out that it's regularly discussed with the supervisors and in the department meetings. They talk about it each year when budgets are done. Enrollment is always a big part of it, and we share the budget projections with the supervisors and the department, so they know what's coming. They know we generally look when we can to cut staff by attrition if we need to cut staff. The only other thing that we ended up discussing that day was Chris Bick came to the meeting and talked about the purchase of a new utility tractor, which is going to replace both a truck and a front-end loader that, is it a front-end loader? Mm-hmm. Yes, that are both quite old, and what happens here with a truck, it doesn't get used a hell of a lot, so it ends up being here for years and years and has very few miles on it. The advantage of this one new piece of equipment, not only it's less expensive than the two pieces, but it'll be able to be used more frequently and will get a lot more value for our dollar with it. Any questions on operations? That's all?
All right, thank you. We now have the first opportunity for public comment. The first public comment period will be limited to agenda items for this meeting only. The second public comment period will be open to any topic. All comments are limited to 5 minutes. So does the public have any comments regarding the agenda items? You have to come to the podium and state your name, and that's okay.
Welcome.
State your name.
Rocco
and where you're
DeSanta,
from, and where you're
Greenbrook.
from.
Greenbrook.
Okay.
Check
Go ahead.
Greenbrook tax bills and you'll understand the money situation with how it's paid out. We get some big ones, they come in really big envelopes. I have some questions about the choir concert. So my first question is, who has the decision? Who gets to decide what's the format of the choir concert?
So the portion, this is for you to provide a comments.
Oh,
Not necessarily a question and answer session.
Okay.
But why don't you just tell us what your concerns are, and then. we can-
well, it's hard without knowing, right? I don't know
Okay.
everyone here. Did anyone go to the concert in the winter? Anyone?
I think most of the board members did.
Okay, so did anyone think there was improvement?
Again, this is.
Okay, so can't do question. All right, so I thought there was nothing gained and there was a lot lost,
Okay.
right? You described it as magical and the most attended event outside of graduation, and I can't imagine what's even being discussed. It's so simple. You guys have so many serious important things to talk about here. This is so simple. Just leave Mrs. Bird in charge. She's great at it. Do you hear the thunder when she steps out on stage? It was outrageous for years. What's the point? And what are you doing wasting all this time? And the children are suffering. My daughter is a choir student for 4 years. Her peers have now elected her president of the ensembles. She prepares for these events. If you wait till the last minute for things like senior solos and things like that, they will not be prepared. My daughter, who's dreamt of doing a senior solo for 4 years, actually 5, because she started attending in middle school. She's been dreaming of it for years. By the time the people who you seem to imply are discussing this made the decision in the winter, too late. She couldn't audition because she takes it seriously. This is not something she does lighthearted. She wasn't ready to go. Now you're going to let them do it again? You're just wasting time. Isn't this silly? I mean, I just was hoping that one of you would be able to say, here's what we gained. We got attendance for the band. If you want to say that, then tell us, and then we all walk away, and we understand. You're trying to get people to watch the band. But what's there to discuss is all. But I didn't know we couldn't get answers. I wouldn't have come if I didn't know we can't get
Part of the
answers.
problem with the answers is that from the education committee report, it's that they're meeting to discuss what they're going to do with the teachers. So there will be an answer soon.
Do we know when?
Do you know when there will be an answer?
So if you want, once you close public comment, I'll
Okay.
give some information
All right.
on just
Okay.
on some feedback.
Okay. I'm just, like I said, without being able to ask questions, I don't know where you get the information from, things like that. I mean, the teachers that you appear to be getting the information from are the ones who forced that horrible format down our throat to begin with. So, does that make sense? Did you ask parents? I can't ask questions, I'm sorry. Without being able to ask questions, I think I'm done.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Come on up.
My name is Andrea Oliva Potenza. You already read my long-winded letter, so I won't repeat. But I'm actually here on behalf of my daughter tonight. So I just want to, she couldn't be here tonight. So I just want to read what she wrote, and it's regarding the choral concert. She says, good evening, everyone. My name is Gianna Oliva Potenza, and I am a junior. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I have mandatory dance rehearsals on Tuesday night, so I asked my parents to appear on my behalf. I have been a member of the Watchung Hills Chorus since my first day of high school. Every year we have one chorus concert in the winter and one in the spring. This year the decision was made to split up the chorus between the two separate concerts, including band and orchestra, meaning 2 in the winter. It is imperative that the chorus concert be returned back to the way it used to be. The whole chorus program is made up of a multiple different groups, mixed groups, advanced chorus, mixed chorus, boys ensemble, and girls ensemble. This winter, these groups were all split up. I am a junior in advanced chorus, and my brother is a freshman in mixed chorus, and was also recently invited to join the boys ensemble. Chorus is one of the few things that my 15-year-old brother and I have in common, and we were both looking forward to being on stage and singing together. Unfortunately, that opportunity was taken away from us when the mixed chorus sang in one concert and the advanced chorus sang in a separate concert a week later. Having to raid around backstage for 3 hours while the band and orchestra performed before it was our turn to perform was also very frustrating and exhausting. We'd like our own chorus concert back. I will now read, this is me talking. I will now read a petition. My daughter got over 100 petitions signed, which I will give to you. And I just wanted just 2 small paragraphs to read what it is. The winter and spring choral concerts are always major highlights during the school year. All chorus members look forward to their concert, as it is an exciting night to all come together as a cohesive group to perform for family and friends. This year, the decision was made to split up the choral groups between 2 concerts. Not only were we split apart, we were forced to share the performances with the band and the orchestra. Overall, chorus members were confused and saddened at the idea of being split up, as we consider ourselves one large family. We were also angered that the split up, as we consider we were also angered that the chorus was stuck on to the end of a 3-part concert, as this belittles the importance and individuality of our choir performance. The chorus was told that this change was only an idea that was desired to be tried out for the 2019 winter concerts. It was tried, and we were forced to comply, but now we demand our concert back. Just one more paragraph. There are countless reasons for why the concerns were not enjoyed by chorus members, as well as audience members. Numerous issues regarding length of the performance, organization, and lack of desire to watch other performers prove this new concert protocol does not work. If a family member or friend of a chorus member wishes to watch the band or orchestra, they can go watch these talented groups at their own concert on their own night. However, the administration has decided, we were told, to keep the chorus split up. So thank you. This is my daughter's voice for all the chorus members, and I have the over 100 petitions if you'd like to have those, all signed and dated.
Usually give them to
I mean, you could give them to Mr. Stiles if you'd like to.
Okay.
Is it 100 really? Is it 1 page on it? But
She just said signatures, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, there's 100.
Of course. Thank you.
She thanks you for her time, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The teacher what petition means.
Any other comments?
Instead of 100 signatures.
Okay. We'll move into board discussion. First, board discussion.
Now or later? Want to wait till after the next public comment?
Yeah.
That's fine, because I don't think the agenda will take too long.
Board discussions of the agenda items first. So anything that's on the agenda that the board would want to discuss, and then we can discuss whatever the items on for future approval. What is discussing the agenda items? Not quite sure why we break them up.
We can address that in the future.
This has to do with A3 and 4 on the agenda, which are policy approvals. First, I want to thank Beth for getting back to me with not just my usual objections to policy, but some other ones in addition to that. Having said that, the earned sick leave law policy, 1642, is poorly written, and despite the fact that Beth pointed out to me what's actually going to be done, that's not what the policy says is done regarding who is when you're eligible to use your sick leave that you accrued before the law started, before the new law started, because it refers to both as earned sick leave, and the new stuff is earned sick leave. So it's inconsistent, and I don't think we should adopt it. The other policy having to do with teaching member staff, district reporting responsibilities, I said for years, I think it's a mistake for us to keep adopting policies that simply recite the requirements of the law. That policy could simply be the first sentence that's in there that says that the board and the administration will comply with the state regulation and with the state law. And that's why I'm voting no against them, and sorry to bore you with all that.
Okay, so I guess I just have a couple questions, but the earned sick leave law, aside from your, but with the, just be clear, with the M next to them, that means they're all mandatory?
It's mandatory that you
Mandatory.
have a
Oh,
policy.
see, pertaining to the issue,
Yes.
okay. With the earned sick leave law, do you have specific change in language that you like to propose?
I would propose saying that,
Comply with
yes,
the law.
that we will comply with the earned sick leave law. The
Okay.
policy of the
But you're
district
not
is that
gonna
we
go
will
through and
comply.
actually change what is
Absolutely not,
inconsistent.
because
Okay.
it uses the same term. I'd have to come up with definitions to distinguish what was earned sick leave earned by our employees before this and what's earned sick leave earned after the law. Because the way it's written now, you're not eligible to take any of your sick leave until after a certain date, even if you've had it accrued. That's what our policy says. The date's passed, so we're dancing on the head of a pin, but, it's a lot
What do
easier.
you mean the date's passed?
It was February of
Last year.
2019.
Oh, okay.
But no, I wouldn't propose any changes other than to just
Okay.
adopt a policy that says it's the policy of the district to comply with the applicable laws.
Okay, understood.
And that could probably eliminate 75% of our policies.
But you're right, though, because they're gonna change it again, then we gotta go through the whole thing again.
And the real problem is that when the law changes and the legislature changes the law, for sometimes several months to a year and a half, our policy still says something different. It says what the old law provided.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the reason we do make these policies is that it helps if somebody, if we have to take an action, it helps if we have a policy to back it up.
Versus having to go
But
to the law.
litigation, I can tell you that when we've had various, litigation for different things, one of the things they ask us for is that we have policy on these things, and if we don't, it would look very bad upon us and could affect the outcome.
Right.
So, plus, people are looking at, and Peter, I completely understand what you're saying, I absolutely do. But one of the things too is when we refer our staff or we refer parents or whomever we refer them to the policy, not the law. People are going to be more likely to go look up the policy than they are to look through the law. However, as you've said, sometimes the language of the policy is not much easier to discern than the law. It's just a little bit more accessible. But I certainly appreciate and understand, what your viewpoint on it.
And for the rest of the board, I won't be repeating that for every policy this year. But I do it once a year.
Okay, I'm still concerned that if you believe that the earned sick leave law policy has an inconsistency in it,
I will look at it before the next meeting and
Thank
see
you.
if there's another proposal that I could make,
Okay.
short of saying that we'll just comply with the
Thank
law.
you. Any other board discussion about action items or future action items?
So I just have a point regarding this regulations, policies and regulations. My suggestion at the meeting was that we should require every staff member to give in
Oh,
writing
a signed,
that they
sign off on
they
it?
have read it and understood it. Because if there's a litigation, they can't say, I was not aware of it, I was not made aware of it. So at least you have in writing that you were
Right,
made
we
aware
do
of it.
onboard them with them, but we don't make everybody do them every year or something? We
I
don't-
honestly
Nobody
don't know
signs
how
off
they
on
could-
something every year, right? I think that's an administrative decision. You
There
guys
are
need to-
certain required trainings for certain policies every year, but we don't, honestly, it would be unrealistic to expect them to read all of the policies. If a board member tried to do it, I don't know, it's impossible.
At least they must know where it is if they want to read it.
Yes.
So for that, if you just have a small sheet, they just write this, I know that I have, where it is,
This is
this
to it.
policy, I'm aware of it, and so.
Well, we can certainly
something
discuss that. Yeah, we can
That
absolutely
you wash your
discuss
hands,
that.
by doing so. The other point here is that when you say earn means that you have to earn it before you can take it, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
You can't take for future that, okay, I'm sick, I need more, but I
No,
don't
you have to
have.
work 30 hours, you
Yes.
get 1 hour.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we move on to the action items?
Madam President, I'd like to move items A1 through A4.
Second,
Any discussion,
A14,
comments?
you said A,
A4.
sorry.
Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Chand,
Yes,
Mr. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Hayek,
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger,
Staying A1, A2, yes on the rest.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes?
Mrs. Ober,
Yes.
Ms. Potter,
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky,
Yes.
Ms. Ravan,
Yes.
and Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
Madam President, I'd like to move items A5 through A7.
Second,
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Chand,
yes,
Mr. Fallon,
yes.
Mr. Hayek,
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Hunsinger,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes?
Mrs. Ober,
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky,
Yes.
Ms. Ravan,
Yes.
and Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Madam President, I'd like to move items C1 through C6.
We're not doing B?
Didn't we do that?
B1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to move item B1.
Second, B1.
Any questions or comments? That's the program of study.
That's right.
All right. Hearing, seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Chand,
yes,
Mr. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Hayek,
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes?
Mrs. Ober,
Yes.
Ms. Potter,
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky,
Yes.
Ms. Raban,
Yes.
and Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Now, Madam President, I'd like to move items C1 through C6.
Second,
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Chand,
yes,
Mr. Fallon,
yes.
Mr. Hayek,
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes?
Mrs. Ober,
Yes.
Ms. Potter,
Yeah.
Dr. Shabilsky,
Yes.
Ms. Raban,
Yes.
and Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Madam President, I'd like to move items D1 through D6.
Second,
could we separate D1? Because I'm supposed to abstain there, right?
Yes, when I get to the vote. So, Dr. Chand, so you would abstain from your check?
Yeah, so the D1 should be voted separately, or how should it?
You say abstain from.
You could
D1.
just abstain from D1 and then say the rest.
Okay,
Right.
Like I did.
Any questions or comments? All right. roll call.
Okay, Dr. Chand?
yeah, I vote yes for all items except D1, abstain for D1.
Okay, Mr. Fallon?
yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes?
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
Second opportunity for public comment.
Did Liz,
Yes.
didn't you say you were going to?
I'm going to respond once public comments close.
Okay.
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. No other comments?
So first, thank you for taking the time to come tonight. I apologize if the format of the board meeting frustrates you if you weren't aware of that before you came, but thank you for, or I shouldn't say frustrate you, but just that since you weren't aware of it, so thank you for your patience as we went through the agenda. I do appreciate your comments and your feedback. I agree that we have a tremendous music program. We have tremendous music instructors, and when the teachers as well as the administrators were looking at a new format for the winter, so you can understand some of the different considerations. One of them was that one of our 3 music teachers was out on leave and wouldn't be here, and so for a leave replacement teacher to do a concert, one entire concert, mostly on his own, is a very heavy lift. So that was one of the considerations. We also, we do have we have an arts department, a music department. We don't have a vocal music department, an instrumental music department. So we do certainly want the students and the staff to support each other. And rather than having the separate concerts and having them a little more collaborative, certainly works toward that end. And that was the thought behind that. It wasn't to have any student feel slighted. We also have added, over the past couple of years, the number of performing groups that we have. We've added levels, we added a freshman band, we have a number of ensemble groups. And so the concerts, as a result, the length of the concerts has gotten longer. And as you know, with the choir concerts, we've actually, we have trouble fitting all of the attendees into the pack at times because it is such a well-attended event. So these were all of the different considerations that they looked at in trying something new. And so that's really what they were looking at with this, giving the emerging music students a chance to shine so that they would have their own night. So they're looking at everything, but reflecting on the feedback from the winter concerts, the positives, some of the issues, some of the things such as the setup. I know the breakdown and setup between the different groups was a bit of a problem, so we talked about that. So they're looking at all of those to see what other possibilities that they may want to explore for possibly, one of the concerts, and maybe in the winter we do it one way and in the spring we do it another way. For the instrumental music, what's worked well for them is they do their ensembles on a different night. So perhaps exploring that with the choir, where we pull the ensembles, because that does add, they're tremendous, the groups are tremendous, but it adds a significant amount of time to the concert. So perhaps having a special night for the soloists and ensembles. I'm just throwing out different, ideas that have come up. So the teachers are talking about it with the principal, with the director of curriculum, with the supervisor of arts, and they're going to come back with some ideas of what they want the spring to look like. They may decide it's going to look exactly like it did. They may decide to tweak it a little bit. With the winter, we also didn't, they were really working within the constraints of only 2 nights because they didn't want to put an extra burden on the teachers by having an additional night, but now that's something that they're looking at. So it's just a matter of our program has evolved so much, and as Mr. Vaughn said, it's a great problem to have because the numbers have increased, the number of groups have increased, so we just want to look at the best way to give the students the ability to really showcase their talents. So I assure you that is the goal, and that's what they are working on, and that will be determined within the next couple of weeks. Our new principal just started, but he's already been meeting with them to discuss this, so an update will be coming out soon. So I appreciate your feedback tonight, and thank you for waiting till the end of the meeting.
Okay. I closed the second opportunity for public comment, but you certainly can talk to Ms. Jewett.
Yep, you can touch base with me after the meeting, or you can follow up with Mr. Vertelli or me, or the principal. But I'll be here after the meeting.
Okay, so is there any other business that we want to discuss? The one thing that I just wanted to bring up real quick was, in March, I guess, on the schedule of meeting schedule and events proposals, in March is where we would usually do our board goal setting retreat. But I wanted to discuss what people thought about, because we were being involved in the strategic plan, moving that maybe till after the strategic plan.
That's a good idea.
Do we have what's the sense of kind of when that would be?
When the strategic plan would be
Like,
done?
yeah, like when, if we're saying is it after the
Oh, okay.
strategic plan process,
So
or are we talking?
There is gonna be a strategic plan committee meeting next week. I think the idea is to try to get the strategic plan done by the end of the school year. So
Okay.
I guess we would do
So
a
perhaps
board
a
goal
summer-
We would do a
setting in
summer
the
goal
summer.
setting.
Yeah.
Board goals in like 2027.
Right
That's what
after we
Barry's
do
hoping for.
right after we do the CSA evaluation.
I prefer
So
the
that-
summer.
After we do
prefer
the
the
board.
summer.
Okay, so that makes sense
It
with
makes
everybody, we'll
sense.
move it to the summer.
And the plan is to have, assuming the committee is good with the tentative timeline, is to have, we'll have the strategic plan goals and the meat of the plan done
Yeah,
by
'cause
the
that's
end of the school
really,
year.
that really is a board goal anyway.
So that's what the board goals, you'll
Yeah,
be
that's
developed
what I was
around that.
Yeah. Okay. That was the only thing I had for other business. Anybody else have anything else?
Yeah, I would just mention that I'm concerned, having worked on the last strategic plan, that that's a very ambitious timeline for the strategic plan. And we may want to revisit this, because I don't think we're going to have a strategic plan done that.
Oh, should
I
have a
beg to
good
differ,
outline.
Peter. We've laid it out. We will not have the action plans done, but we should have the mission, the goal statement, the
Big goals.
objectives. That's the,
Willing to
yeah.
work there.
It is a very ambitious timeline, but we've been already working like crazy with Judy and Max to get
Plus, we're well experienced.
some of the preliminary things done.
Right, we've done it once before.
Motion? Other
Something else?
business?
Just wanted to see with the superintendent if there was any feedback from your meeting of superintendents regarding the opportunity to collaborate on a grant to take a look at the feasibility of consolidation or shared services?
So they are going to take it back to their boards. I asked them to discuss it with their boards and get back to me after their February board meeting. So that is what they are going to do. The one of the discussion about the earlier start time, the transportation feasibility study that I would like to do, they are all very, very interested in. So that piece, I think we will definitely move forward with. I did speak with Scott Dieleman to touch base with him first about the type of study we want to do, and he actually agreed that the person that I had was considering that Bridgewater had used would be the best person to do the study, and that Scott would be happy to collaborate with him. So that I am going to look at getting a price to see what that would be, and I have to actually talk to Tim. I don't know if we'd be splitting it amongst the districts, if that means we still have to do an RFP process, or I have to get a little bit better idea, since it's really a consultant to do the transportation study, but all four of the superintendents, and I believe their boards as well. I don't want to speak for their boards, but I believe they had talked to their boards about it, and they're definitely interested in doing that study to look at the later start times. The other one, they are going to talk to their board about and get back to me.
Go ahead.
Is that something we could start and still apply for a grant for paying for it?
For the there's no money for the transportation
Yeah,
pilot study,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
The later start time study, rather. While the state is looking to, they
looking for
are looking
pilot.
to do a pilot for that, there's no money for it, unfortunately. I
I recall that
asked.
now, yeah.
Yes, I asked.
I apologize for not saying this earlier in the meeting, but just a general question is, has the board in past looked at publishing information on school trips? In particular, if we look at like A9 or A of 10, about reducing the information, in particular, the amount of students, the teachers, or the times in which they'll be leaving, just a security precaution. This was something that was brought up to me, considering everything going on, especially with the Holocaust Memorial, whether it's something along the lines like there will be a class trip and it will cost the
In the
board.
springtime?
We
Yes.
just stopped doing it in Greenboro. We
There's
just stopped
that-
publishing that, yeah.
It'd be a cost to the board of X and keeping it general
For that reason.
of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. What do you think, Tim?
Well, yeah, I mean, we put a lot of information in there. I
We do.
mean, I mean,
You don't
we're,
have to, that's true.
yeah, we're partially complying with the accountability regulations. You're supposed to get approval for all these trips
From the board?
in advance.
Yes.
Yeah, from the board.
So why
yeah.
can't that be a private board correspondence?
But I think we could probably get approval, but we could probably leave,
Leave some of the detail out.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm
particular
afraid that's a good
dates.
suggestion.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Just put the
thinking.
month,
Maybe
but
if we
not
trim
date
down
or-
some of those details, I
Mm-hmm.
do get that point, what you're saying, is that you don't want to lay out all that information. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
If someone brought it up to me, I figured I should.
that's it.
Okay, no,
Well,
it's a
and
good
I
point.
think, and certainly if they're
Yeah, it's a
already
good
doing
point,
it
Chris.
in Greenbrook, there's a model to look at to see how they've done it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Freddie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Last meeting, yeah.
So this New Jersey State Board of Education Association, they send a newsletter. So I got a newsletter, I forgot to bring the copy of that. It says that the governor signed some 20 items related to the education in New Jersey State. So I don't know if there's anything interesting in there or which relates
There's
to.
a lot interesting.
We didn't discuss that one,
So
right?
we have, I mean,
Most of them do not affect us
School
in
board
particular.
notes is what you want to look at.
Yeah.
Well,
Jersey
they
School
have-
Boards
I get
Association.
an update from NJSA, and I looked through all of them, and there's nothing specifically that actually
No, there are
directly
something
affects
interesting, there's
us.
some scholarships they have allocated there, and I think our students may like to take advantage of that.
I don't know if that was
Not
in the
as far
le-
as related to legislation?
Yeah, he signed some money, allocated money, some science scholarships or something. I mean, I don't remember exactly what it was, but there are like 20 items he signed on 20th of January relating to the education in New Jersey State.
I'll look back to see what was in there. There was nothing, I did review because I got the list of all 30, we actually all looked at them. to see what was in there,
We
to
have to
see if
change
there was
policy
anything.
or something.
Whenever there's anything that's going to directly affect the school district, even scholarships, the DOE sends us directly a broadcast every week. So actually, everything that was signed in there, we looked, but if it affects us or there's an opportunity, I will also get it from the DOE.
I see. I'll go through it again and get back to you.
Okay, anything else?
Good night.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.